presentation. Once again, we're going to go deep into what's happening right now on the earth. The first thing I want to share with you guys is that there are a multitude of timelines that are actually playing out at this time. And all of this is leading to what is known as a convergence or a trifurcation. So as the planet begins to shift, right, things are accelerating. One of the most profound yet least understood dynamics that is unfolding behind the scenes is the existence of multiple coexisting Earth realities. So what humanity is currently experiencing is not a single linear reality, right, but a multi-layered field of parallel possibilities. And all of these parallel possibilities are playing out simultaneously within the greater structure of the multiverse. Well, this is why reality at times feels unstable, contradictory, or like if it's accelerating. It is because multiple versions of Earth's future, are actually overlapping at this time. They're interacting and competing for manifestation. Well, in advanced metaphysics, or what they call interdimensional studies, interdimensional physics studies, the universe is not singular either, okay? It is part of a vast multiverse, which is a living matrix composed of infinite dimensions and realities. Well, within this framework, time is not linear, but fractal and branching constantly, with each choice being made in every given moment in time. That's right, every single choice that people make, every thought, every collective decision creates a new timeline branch, a new probable pathway, or a new version of reality that continues to exist alongside others. These timelines are not illusions either. They are fully real vibrational streams, and each with its own sequence of events, outcomes, and even evolutionary trajectories. According to the secret esoteric systems, and even those that are supported and referenced in the Ascension Glossary, timelines exist across a spectrum of frequency. For instance, lower frequency timelines are corresponding to people's fear, to people's control, conflict, and division. Higher frequency timelines are corresponding to unity, awakening, peace, and expansion. So at this moment on the Earth's evolution, thousands of potential timelines are active, ranging from highly negative outcomes such as global conflict and systematic collapse to highly positive outcomes involving unity, advanced technologies, and interstellar integration. So apparently, so much is happening right now. Would you all agree? Right? Give me a thumbs up if you all agree. The intensity of current global events can actually be understood through this lens. What appears as chaos, in reality, the simultaneous activation of multiple timelines. Some timelines are actually moving towards conflict, war, and fragmentation, while other timelines are moving towards awakening, disclosure, and unity. And still, others exist in transitional states, fluctuating between those two. Well, these timelines are not isolated either. They're actually bleeding into one another, creating what many experience as conflicted narratives in media and society, explaining the division in MAGA. Right? Some people are still pro-Trump. Some people have lost their faith in Trump. Also, rapid and unpredictable global shifts, a sense that reality itself is beginning to glitch or accelerating. Well, this phenomena is often referred to as a timeline convergence zone, where multiple possibilities are actually being compressed into a single decision point. Within this framework, humanity is not a passive observer either, because consciousness is the mechanism through which timelines are selected and stabilized. Each individual, all of you, contributes to the collective field through your thoughts, your emotional state, your beliefs and actions. So as more individuals begin to align with higher awareness, well, they are beginning to anchor in these higher frequency timelines, which is what we call the positive timeline, making them more stable and more likely to manifest as the dominant reality. And this is why the awakening is reaching critical mass at this time. Is so significant. It is a direct influence which timeline becomes primary. It is directly influences which timeline becomes primary. Think about that, okay? All right, so while many timelines currently coexist, as explained, according to the Galactic Archives, they all describe an approaching event known as the moment of trifurcation, not bifurcation, trifurcation. It was brought to my attention that there will be a neutral middle timeline. And this is a pivotal point in which the multitude of timelines begin to collapse, where the infinite possibilities begin to narrow into 12 timelines, and I will explain those 12 timelines in a little bit, and then ultimately into 3 primary trajectories. Well, this collapse does not destroy timelines either, but rather it filters and consolidates them into 3 dominant frequency bands. Well, the first one, the 3 resulting timelines, we all know that there is a lower density playing out because of people's fears, because of people's inability to adapt to a cooperative world. This is the path that represents a continuation of the current paradigm, which is indicated by what? Systems of control, hierarchy, and limitation remain in place, where consciousness remains largely unawakened, where technological and social progress continues, but without the deepening spiritual integration. Well, there is a good chunk of humans that are creating that timeline by default of not becoming spiritual or awakened. And these individuals are ultimately aligned with fear, attachment to old systems, and resistance to change that may gravitate towards this negative outcome. And then there's also the transitional timeline, which is what I call the 4D bridge reality. This is a hybrid pathway where old systems are dismantled, but new ones are still forming, where humanity undergoes gradual awakening and restructuring. There is both challenge and growth in this neutral timeline as individuals adapt to the higher awareness. So this timeline is acting as a bridge, allowing for integration and adjustment. And then, of course, there is what is known as the higher density timeline, 5D ascending Earth and beyond. This represents the most evolved trajectory. Unity consciousness becomes the dominant state. Advanced technologies and higher knowledge are integrated with spiritual awareness. Humanity begins to reconnect with its multidimensional nature and their cosmic origins. So this timeline is ultimately characterized by what? Cooperation over competition, transparency over secrecy, expansion over limitation. So there is the collapse that is about to take place and the choice where people begin to go into either 3. This is the moment of trifurcation, which is not a random event either. It is the result of the increasing frequency on the planet, the amplification of solar and cosmic energies, the collective state of human consciousness reaching a threshold, a new threshold. And so as this moment approaches, the overlap between timelines will intensify. The contrast between different realities will become more pronounced. Individuals will feel a stronger pull toward one path over the other. And so this is often experienced as a deep internal choice point where one must align with either fear or faith, separation or unity, limitation or expansion. Now, humanity is living through one of the most extraordinary phases in history. also. A time when multiple realities are coexisting and the future is not fixed, but fluid. So the apparent chaos of the world is not even the evidence of collapse, but of compression, which is the gathering of countless timelines into a single moment of decision. So when the trifurcation occurs, the noise will settle. The infinite will condense into three, the infinite timelines. And from that point forward, my friends, each soul will continue its journey along the path that resonates most deeply with its state of consciousness. The question is no longer what is happening to the world. The question is, which timeline are you choosing to align? Are you all ready to shift? Right? That's the question I have for all of you at this time. So, according to an archive that I was able to access within the Jupiter Command records, there is, you could say, a paper describing the hidden architects of reality, which I would love to share with you guys. Well, beyond the perception of infinite timelines, there lies a deeper, more refined truth known within advanced interstellar systems. And that is that all timelines, no matter how numerous they are all expressions of 12 fundamental archetype pathways. Okay, what appears as infinite branching realities right now is, in essence, guys, a fractal expansion of 12 core timelines, each representing a distinct frequency band of consciousness and evolutionary direction. And so these are often described as 6 negative timelines, which corresponds to the descend, contracting, entropy-driven, right? Consciousness fragmentalizing, the descent, and 6 positive timelines, which correspond to the ascension, the expansion, and the reintegration of unity. And so together they form the complete spectrum of experiential reality that is available within this universal cycle. Now, regarding the fractal nature of time and the illusion of infinity, from the perspective of higher dimensional awareness, time does not branch infinitely without structure. Instead, it behaves like a fractal hologram where complexity emerges from a limited set of core patterns. Each timeline that you imagine, every version of Earth, every alternative history, every possible future is a variation, a permutation, or what they call a harmonic expression of one of these 12 fundamental or foundational streams, foundational streams. And in this sense, infinity is not chaos, but ordered multiplicity, where every possible reality is actually anchored to a primary template frequency. The 12 timelines are functioning as the source codes of temporal experience. This concept is echoed in sacred systems across traditions. The 12 strands of DNA, the 12 dimensions of consciousness, the 12 zodiac archetypes, the 12 tribes, the 12 rays, the 12 universal principles. Capiche? So all point towards a universal architecture built upon the number 12, which is a harmonic structure governing both matter and consciousness. Well, let's go over the 6 negative timelines, which are the paths of contraction, division, dissension. The 6 negative timelines represent descending pathways of consciousness where awareness becomes increasingly fragmented, separated, and of course ends up in a sense entropic. Okay, these timelines are characterized by controlling systems or systems of control and hierarchical domination, artificial manipulation of consciousness, disconnection from source awareness, technological advancement without spiritual integration. And yeah, that's all part of the 6 negative timelines. Cycles of conflict, scarcity, and fear. And at their extreme, these timelines lead to total energetic inversion, where life force is harvested rather than generated, complete disconnection from organic evolution. And of course, we don't want to do that, right? Collapse into artificial or unstable realities. And these are not evil in a simplistic sense either. They are explorations of separation, allowing consciousness to experience the full range of polarity. Now, regarding the 6 positive timelines, which is the path of expansion, the path of ascension, by contrast to the 6 negative timelines, the 6 positive timelines represent the ascending pathways where consciousness begins to move towards what? Unity, coherence, and reintegration with its source. These timelines are characterized by harmonic or harmony between technology and consciousness, activation of higher DNA potentials, transparency, cooperative social structures, alignment with universal laws and principles, direct awareness of multi-dimensional existence. And so at their highest expression, these timelines lead to what? Fully awakened beings operating as co-creators of reality, where civilizations begin to become integrated into interstellar networks, the embodiment of what many traditions call Christ consciousness or unity consciousness. And these are the pathways of evolution through integration, where all fragments of self are brought back into wholeness. Now, what makes the Earth unique in this cosmic cycle is that it is not aligned with just one of these timelines. Earth is currently experiencing all 12 simultaneously. So we went from experiencing an infinite amount of timelines back when CERN was in the hands of the cabal to experiencing only 12 timelines, 6 negative and 6 positive, when the Alliance took over the Large Hadron Collider a few years ago. This is an extremely rare condition known in advanced metaphysics as a full spectrum convergence field, which is a reality in which every possible polarity, frequency, and evolutionary pathway is active at once. Well, this explains why extreme opposites exist side by side on the planet. Also, why rapid shifts between chaos and awakening are occurring. Why individuals can have vastly different perceptions of reality while sharing the same physical space. Earth, in this sense, is a living crossroads of timelines when you guys think about it. A planetary experiment in which the full range of consciousness is being explored simultaneously. So the reason Earth is holding all 12 timelines at once right now is because it is undergoing a planetary ascension cycle, which is a transition point in which the entire system is being evaluated, integrated, and ultimately reorganized. During this phase, all timelines are allowed to fully express themselves until they separate into the 3. All unresolved distortions are brought to the surface. All aspects of consciousness are given the opportunity to choose alignment. And this creates the intensity that humanity is currently experiencing. Emotional extremes, rapid global changes, the simultaneous rise of both chaos and awakening. It is not disorder. It is a total exposure of the entire timeline spectrum before consolidation. And all of this leads to what is known as the compression point towards one of these 3 streams. The compression point is coming. Are you all ready to shift? Well, as the ascension process continues, These 12 timelines will not remain separately indefinitely either, or separate indefinitely. They are undergoing a process of harmonic compression, frequency sorting, and consciousness-based selection. And this is what leads into the previously described trifurcation event, where the 12 primary timelines collapse into 3 dominant pathways. And in this process, the 6 negative timelines begin to merge into a single lower frequency trajectory, which is what I've been calling the technocratic dystopian timeline. And the 6 positive timelines, in like manner, begin to merge into a single frequency trajectory, which is what I've been calling the organic ascension timeline. And then, of course, the intermediate expression from the transitional bridge, the neutral timeline. Thus, the 12 become the 3, not by elimination, but by integration and consolidation. Now, at the highest level of understanding, even the division between positive and negative timelines is part of a greater unity. From the perspective of source consciousness, which is the highest level of consciousness, underlying all reality, all timelines are expressions of the same infinite awareness. I want you guys to really think about that for a second. All timelines are expressions of the same infinite awareness. That means all polarities exist to generate experience and self-recognition. The ultimate destination is not one timeline over the other either, but the realization of unity beyond all timelines. However, within the realm of experience, within the human journey, these distinctions are meaningful because they define the path of evolution, the lessons of consciousness, and the direction of growth. Now, all of this is leading to what the Galactics call the final integration. And what that means is that Earth is not just shifting, it is completing a cycle that has involved the full exploration of the 12 fundamental realities. And for the first time in this cycle, my friends, all 12 timelines are very active. All possibilities are now visible. All choices are now available. But this phase is also temporary. As the ascension progresses, the system will simplify. The many will become few. The complex will become coherent. And from that point forward, humanity will no longer be humanity will no longer be navigating 12 simultaneous realities, but will continue its journey along the path that reflects its true state of consciousness. So the deeper truth is this. You are not just living in one timeline right now. You are being capable of resonating with all 12. But as the convergence completes, which is what we call the organic singularity, as opposed to the technological singularity, which means totally something different, you begin to align with the one timeline that matches who you have chosen to become. And it all starts now. So humanity now stands at the threshold of what many ancient traditions and even esoteric schools of thought and modern consciousness teachings have long described as the planetary shift, which is a multidimensional transition in which Earth and its inhabitants are going to be moving from a lower density state of awareness into a higher frequency reality. Well, this is not just a symbolic transformation either, but a convergence of cosmic, energetic, and consciousness-based events unfolding simultaneously across the planet. At the heart of this shift are three converging forces: the intensification of solar activity, the oversight of advanced off-world intelligence, and the rapid awakening of human consciousness that is reaching critical mass. So what's causing all of this? What are the cosmic triggers? Well, for one, the geomagnetic activity that is happening right now, the solar flares, which is one of the most visible physical indicators of this shift that is increasing, of course, in the solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and geomagnetic activity originating from our sun. Well, according to the secret knowledge and in the archives of the Jupiter Command, they often reference the solar flare activities, the coronal mass ejections, the geomagnetic activity with the transition. And why is that? Well, because the sun is not just a star. The sun is a conscious gateway of plasma intelligence that, believe it or not, it is existing on all 12 dimensions. Okay, the sun is one of 12, transmitting coded light into the Earth's energetic field. So these solar emissions are often described as light codes or photonic transmissions, pockets of high frequency information that is interacting with both the Earth's electromagnetic grid and the human biofield. Now, according to the Jupiter Command, the solar flares are acting as DNA activators, stimulating dormant strands within the human template. They are accelerating the breakdown of outdated energetic patterns held within the body and the psyche. They are increasing the resonance of the planet, pushing all life forms towards alignment with higher frequencies. And this is why many people are reporting heightened sensitivity, vivid dreams, emotional purging. We talked about that today in my Ascension Basics course, and expanded awareness during these periods of what is known as intense solar activity. Well, the sun, in this context, is becoming the primary engine of the ascension process, orchestrating the energetic conditions required for planetary transformation. Now, parallel to these natural cosmic processes is the role of what we call the Galactic Alliance. Now they're known as the Universal Federation, right? The old infiltration of the Galactic Federation has been restored into the Universal Federation, which is a collective of what? Advanced civilizations and interstellar councils that are observing and have been observing and assisting the Earth during this transition. So within this context, their primary mission is not domination or interference, but stewardship of the ascension timeline. A key concern during this period is the potential for global conflict, which is manifesting as one of the 6 negative timelines, particularly the possibility of a third world war, which would destabilize the planetary grid and delay humanity's evolutionary trajectory. Well, according to the Galactic Alliance, the Galactic Alliance is maintaining a non-interference directive, allowing humanity to evolve through free will, while monitoring the conflict that could eventually erupt into a global catastrophe. And yes, in one of the positive timelines, my friends, there is a potential of global conflict, let's just call it that, that could lead into a catastrophe. So there is a potential for a rising global conflict that would result in the intervention of the Galactic Alliance. All right, so there is a positive Earth timeline where China enters the war. Russia enters the war. Europe enters the war. Everybody's entering the war. And at that moment, the Galactic Alliance neutralizes and dismantles all nuclear intercontinental missiles all at once. So there are no mass casualties. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be seeing ships everywhere in the sky, globally. Hundreds of thousands of motherships.
I'm down.
I think we're all down for that. But yeah, that's a possibility. And it looks like we might end up in that timeline, which is one of the 6 positive timelines, where it leads into rising global conflict, where all of a sudden the Galactics say, all right, that's enough. Let's intervene.
Let's make contact.
Let's show ourselves and end the suffering. Okay? That is one of the 6 positive timelines. Their presence at this time, my friends, is acting as a stabilizing force, ensuring that the planetary shift continues towards its intended outcome. Okay? So, this concept aligns with ancient prophecies that speak of the watchers, of the guardians, of the host of heaven who oversee, I'm good with water, thank you, who oversee the earth during pivotal cycles of transformation. Make sure that there's no flies in here. I completely forgot to cover my water. All right, no access to my water flies. All right, so in modern interpretations, these are understood as advanced interdimensional beings operating beyond conventional space-time awareness, capable of monitoring multiple timelines simultaneously. Well, perhaps the most significant element of the planetary shift is not external, but internal also. All right? Ascension is an internal process, my friends, which ultimately manifests in the external. Okay? Across the world, millions of individuals are undergoing a process of remembering, and I'm referring to all of you, all the old souls out there, questioning old systems, expanding your awareness, and reconnecting with the deeper aspects of your identity. Well, this phenomena is referred to as what? The Great Awakening. So, it is believed that humanity is moving from a 3D consciousness, which deals with duality, survival, and separation, into a 5D or higher state, which is signified by, or represented by unity, coherence, multidimensional awareness. And as more individuals begin to awaken, a tipping point begins to form, which is what is commonly called critical mass, the 100 monkey syndrome effect, or the Maharishi effect. Critical mass occurs when a sufficient percentage of the population reaches a higher state of awareness, causing automatically for everyone else to be in that higher state of awareness. All right, if you guys are unfamiliar with this Maharishi 100 monkey syndrome effect, look it up. It's been scientifically proven. The collective field begins to shift, making higher consciousness the dominant frequency. And in this timeline, old systems that are based on control, fear, and division begin to dissolve naturally. Now, this is not achieved through force either, okay? But through resonance. As individuals elevate their frequency, they influence the collective field, creating a cascading effect across humanity. So, as the planetary frequency continues to rise, systems that are not aligned with this higher resonance are beginning to destabilize, and this includes outdated political and economic structures, hierarchies built on secrecy and control, and of course, belief systems that are rooted in limitation and fear. From an esoteric perspective, this is known as the density purge. The density purge. The clearing of lower frequency patterns from both the planetary grid and the human psyche. Well, this process can appear chaotic on the surface, and it is, would you all agree? But beneath it all, guys, lies a deeper order, which is the breakdown of old systems that are now coming to an end. And this is all necessary. It is a necessary precursor to the emergence of a whole new reality. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but Earth is the nexus point of this transformation that is happening right now at this time. The nexus point. And what that means is that many advanced teachings have described Earth as a unique convergence point within the cosmos, a planet where multiple dimensions, multiple timelines, and genetic lineages are all intersecting at once. And this makes it a focal point for evolutionary acceleration. Now, I'm trying to do my best to not speak too fast because I really want you guys to digest the meat of this message coming from the Galactic Alliance. The planetary shift, therefore, is not just about Earth either. It is about the integration of humanity into a larger cosmic framework. And so in this context, humanity transitions from isolation to cosmic participation. Earth evolves from a closed system to an open interstellar civilization. And yes, my friends, Earth's quarantine has been lifted. It's just a matter of time before we join the interstellar community. Consciousness becomes the primary technology through which reality is navigated. So the choice point is that the planetary shift is not something happening to humanity. It is something happening through humanity. Let me repeat that again. The planetary shift is not something happening to us. It is something happening through us. The increase in solar activity, the oversight of advanced civilizations, and the awakening of millions are all facets of a single unified process. The evolution of consciousness on a planetary scale. Yet within this process lies a fundamental truth. The outcome is not predetermined. It is co-created. Each individual plays a role in stabilizing the new frequency, embodying higher awareness, and contributing to the collective field. As critical mass approaches, the trajectory becomes more clear. But the choice remains personal. And so the question is no longer whether the shift is happening. The question is, are you all aligned with it? Are you all ready to shift? And yes, my friends, today is the 21st of March, 2026. And you know it, we're still on a positive timeline trajectory. Okay, so another thing that the Galactics want me to express and share is that not everyone on Earth is on the same timeline. There are a divergence of realities all happening at the same time, as stated earlier in this presentation. What do I mean by that? Well, as the planetary shift begins to unfold and the convergence of timelines intensify, one of the most profound realizations emerging for humanity is this: not everyone is experiencing the same reality, even while sharing the same physical space. This is not a metaphor either, okay? It is a direct consequence of how consciousness, frequency, and perception interact to determine which timeline an individual is aligned with. So reality as a frequency-based experience is what all this is about. In higher metaphysical understandings, reality is not fixed or objective in the way it appears. Instead, it is frequency dependent. Frequency dependent. Every individual operates within a specific vibrational range determined by your thoughts, your emotional baseline, your belief systems. Belief is important. And their or your level of awareness, typically. So these factors generate a personal frequency signature, which act like a tuning mechanism, locking the individual into a corresponding timeline. And this is why you could be in a public scenario, walking in the middle of a mall, and be in a totally different reality, even though you're sharing the same space with an unawakened person who's walking right next to you. Everyone is on different realities, even though we're all sharing the same space, all right, because of their frequency. And to give you guys an example, okay, just as a radio can tune into different stations that already exist within the same space, human consciousness tunes into different versions of reality that coexist simultaneously. So there is a sense of the way the Galactics transmitted this information is the illusion of a shared world. Not everyone is on the same Earth reality, all right? From a surface level perspective, think about this, guys. It appears that everyone is living in the same world. However, as the timeline continues to diverge, this illusion begins to break down. And this is the meaning in the Bible, where two individuals can witness the same global event and interpret it in completely different ways. Or when one individual is, planting seeds and the other one in the same farm just disappears, right? I mean, there's so many terminologies to describe this concept. The whole point is this, that every person experiences entirely different emotional and psychological realities based on their vibrational frequency. So this is because they are not truly on the same timeline. They are on an overlapping but vibrationally distinct version of the Earth. Welcome to the multiverse. Well, we are planetary 606, and then there's Earth 709, Earth 1611, and on every parallel Earth reality, there is a different outcome. You are a different person. Just as we've seen in, the Marvel comics movies, right? They're all revealing the true nature of alternative Earth realities. Well, this explains why people can no longer agree on what is real. Why some perceive chaos while others perceive transformation. Why reality feels increasingly polarized. And it's not just disagreement, it is a timeline divergence in real time. I want you guys to really think about that for a second while I sip on my water. All right, so beliefs are not passive ideas either. They are active structures that anchor consciousness into a specific timeline. According to advanced spiritual knowledge found in systems like the ancient emerald records, the CDT plates, and confirmed and validated by the intergalactic records, it is believed that beliefs shape perception, that perception shapes experience, and that experience reinforces the timeline. And so this creates a feedback loop where individuals continue to stabilize the reality they are already aligned with. It's very simple, guys. For example, a person rooted in a fear-based belief may align with timelines of conflict, scarcity, and instability. And they are going to be ending up in one of the 6 negative timelines, which will eventually collapse into only one singular timeline. You don't want to be there, okay? On the other hand, a person rooted in trust, awareness, and expansion may align with timelines of opportunity, awakening, and growth. Neither is imagining the reality. Each is experiencing a valid timeline within the larger multiversal field. multiversal field. Some of you guys are going to have to watch this a couple of times to really grasp all of this information. And I hope you guys do, because a lot of people don't realize that we are not all sharing the same reality, despite of the fact that we are in the same space, but not in the same reality. Okay? As the planetary frequency continues to increase, amplified by the solar activity and the broader ascension cycle, this sorting process becomes more pronounced, where lower density frequencies become increasingly unstable. They require more effort to maintain. They begin to collapse under their own weight. And on the other hand, high frequency states become more accessible. They feel more natural and coherent, and they begin to stabilize as dominant pathways. And so this creates a natural separation that is often referred to as the frequency sorting, timeline trifurcation, the splitting of worlds, the harvest, the separation of the wheats from the tares. I guess a new term would be, even though it's not found in the Bible, but a lot of Christian organizations allude to it, the rapture. Those are all different terminologies describing the convergent point. Okay? But this split is also not physical either. See, most people think that the earth is actually physically breaking off into two earths. No, 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 no. The earth as a multidimensional construct within itself is existing on different layers of reality. Very similar to how different radio frequency waves or stations could occupy the same space at the same time. Okay, so it's not a physical split. It is a vibrational and perceptual split. That's what's happening right now. So, why some people cannot see what others can see is the question that I pose here. Okay, think about that for a second. A key aspect of this divergence is that individuals on different timelines may become increasingly unable to perceive each other's reality. And this can manifest as inability to understand another person's perspective, dismissal of information that does not match your own beliefs, a sense that others are asleep or disconnected. And so from a higher perspective, this is not judgment either. It is frequency incompatibility. Frequency incompatibility. Just as certain wavelengths of light, for those that have studied quantum mechanics, and I have, it's my favorite field of science to study. I am a nerd when it comes to quantum physics, superstring theory, empty theory, unified field theory. I love it. Just as certain wavelengths of light are invincible to the human eye, certain timelines are inaccessible to those that are not vibrating within that particular range. So one of the most empowering truths within this revelation that I'm revealing here is that timeline alignment is not imposed. It is chosen. Free will. Free will is important in all of this. Right? The ability to choose by virtue of your beliefs, your thoughts, which determine your frequency and your emotions. So not always consciously, but through our daily thoughts is how we make the choice. Through our emotional responses is how we make the choice. Through our internal beliefs. And of course, the level of awareness where we're at. And so every moment becomes a point of selection. Every given second in time, based on your thoughts and your emotion and how your beliefs fluctuate, will determine if whether you are shifting from one parallel earth reality to the next. So it is believed, and again, this is all supported by the secret knowledge. For those that have studied the deep metaphysical secret knowledge, we are constantly shifting from one parallel earth reality to another every given second in time based on your thoughts your emotions, and your internal beliefs. Every moment, guys, becomes a point of selection that is constantly shifting you from Earth 6061 to Earth 6063 to Earth 7094. You name it. There is an infinite number of alternative Earths. And yes, they're all real. Well, small shifts in perception can actually lead to alignment with entirely different experiences. New opportunities appear, old patterns begin to dissolve, and over time, these micro choices begin to accumulate, anchoring the individual more deeply into a specific timeline reality. So there is a sense of increasing separation as the ascension nears, as we approach the moment of what they call the organic singularity. So as Earth approaches the culmination of its ascension cycle, the gap between timelines will continue to widen, the overlap between realities will continue to decrease, and the difference in lived experiences will become undeniable. So therefore, some will, experience increased chaos, confusion, and instability, while others will experience clarity, synchronicity, and accelerated growth. Okay? So both are real, both are very valid, but they are not on the same timeline. The idea that everyone shares the same reality is a construct of lower density perception. As consciousness continues to expand, it becomes clear that reality is deeply personal, vibrationally determined, and constantly shifting. You are not just observing the world. You are tuning into it. You are interacting with it. And most importantly, you are co-creating it. Think about that. So, and as the planetary shift continues, this truth is becoming impossible to ignore. The question is no longer what is happening out there. The question becomes, what are you aligned with? And therefore, what reality are you choosing to experience? So I end this presentation with the question, are you all ready to shift? Are you all ready to shift? I want to hear your answers in the comments and the questions. I do want to